Hi, it's Michael, clinical psychologist at Grove Psychology. I'm going to talk to you today about a concept called paralysis by analysis. And what that means is the difficulty of making a decision when we're overwhelmed by information, usually in times of uncertainty. So we're trying to make a big decision in our lives, we're gaining information, and actually we become overwhelmed by the information. I'll give you a couple of examples how this might play out. So one example might be about writing a report at work or an assignment for university, and as you're writing each sentence, you're thinking about all the possibilities of how to structure that perfectly and over-analysing every single word and the sentence. And what you'll find is that your writing starts to grind to a halt. You can't get the flow of your ideas out very well. And that's an example of that paralysis by analysis. And in the end, your assignment or your report starts to be overdue because you can't get the words out. Okay. The second example is this idea of satisficers versus maximizers. And I like this idea because this really explains how we can get caught up in that paralysis. A satisficer will look for a set of criteria to make their decision. And once that's met, they'll go with that. A maximizer wants to make sure they get the most possible thing out of it, so the most bang for their buck. So an example might be, imagine you're trying to buy a fridge and you are looking at all the things that you need in a fridge. A satisficer will look for, I want double doors, I want the ice machine, it needs to be this particular colour and in this sort of range with this maybe this sort of energy efficiency. A maximizer will look for the best possible value, but spend an inordinate amount of time looking at all the different shops where they can get the best possible bargain. And they might spend multiple weekends going out, having a look, different shops, where a satisficer might say, okay, this one here makes my criteria, this one makes my criteria, I'll see which one I can get the best bargain from, but I'm also going to accept the fact that I might not get the best bargain possible. And that's the key difference. Maximizer is looking for the absolute perfection to the point where they don't make a decision. So, how do we overcome paralysis by analysis? Well, there's a couple of ways that we can overcome this. Firstly, let's see if we can get into that satisficer mode. What is my criteria that I need to do? Right? If I'm trying to make a decision, I need some information, but not too much information. I need it to satisfy a degree of criteria, but not be overwhelmed by that. So I can put limits on how much research that I'm going to do. I can set a deadline of when I have to make a decision. But no matter what, a decision is going to be made to move forward by X time. Another example is making decisions based on your values. How is it that I want to behave? What aligns with my values that are important to me? So let me give an example. Imagine you're looking for work and you've got a couple of different opportunities for a job. You could agonize over the decision, or you might say, well, which one aligns better with my values as who I am and how I want to be as a human being? The next example of how to cope with this, I want to come back to this idea of uncertainty, is that we're accepting uncertainty. Paralysis by analysis is about trying to avoid uncertainty. We're trying to find as much information so that we can make the right decision, the perfect decision. And the reality is there's no perfection. Okay? Going back to our fridge example, there's a good chance that by the time you make a decision to buy a fridge, the following week you're going to see the same fridge on a better deal. And a satisficer, in that example, accepts the fact that they've got the best in that moment. When we try to get rid of uncertainty, a lot of the times we're trying to gain more control. That's where we get caught in this paralysis. We're trying to gain control through more and more information. If we can accept that there's uncertainty, making room for that discomfort, making the decision that is the best that we can make in that moment, we can move forward without becoming overwhelmed by all the data. It's important that we accept that we might have a degree of self-doubt, that we might feel like an imposter. We've all heard about this imposter syndrome. That comes from uncertainty. It comes from inexperience and something that we're trying to do. If we're moving forward in our lives, there are times when we're going to be not knowing exactly how to move forward. And we have to make room for that uncertainty. So one of the key things here is, one, making room for the uncertainty. Two, making the decision even if you don't feel ready right at this moment. If you wait until you feel ready, 100% ready, you might miss your opportunity. That brings me on to the next point, this idea of just ship it. And this comes from an American author called Seth Godin. And his point of view is that you need to get it out as soon as it's basically ready. It can't be waiting till it's perfect. It needs to be good enough. Now, he's talking about releasing products and things like that, but you can think about this in terms of making decisions. If you're going for a new job, for example, but you feel like I'm not quite ready for that role, if you wait until you're 100% ready, you might have missed the opportunity. It might not come back again. Somebody else might have taken that leap of faith, and then you get passed over. I'm not saying that you should go for jobs that you don't have qualifications in or skills in, but if you're close enough, can you make room for that uncertainty and trust yourself that you can catch up over time, rather than getting caught up in the self-doubt, rather than thinking about all the pros and cons and being in that paralysis by analysis mode. Okay? So this whole concept is about avoiding uncertainty and getting stuck. And what we want to say here is, can we accept there's a degree of uncertainty, accept that there is some uncomfortability, and still move forward without trying to be totally in control. So I'll go back to my example at the start with the report writing. The way through that is to write. Just write. Get all the information out. Once it's out, then you can go back and edit it and make corrections. But you'll find that your flow of ideas comes through a lot easier. You're not bombarded by these thoughts of how to perfectly word that. You're getting good enough, knowing that you can come back and have a look at it. Okay? I hope that's been helpful for you. I'll see you again soon.